Good morning. Welcome back to Stock Up with Larry Jones. If you're new to the page, go ahead and hit the like, subscribe, and the notification bell. Do yourself a favor. We make money here. That's all we concentrate on. Hey, if you are into DWAC, I'm going to timestamp this video. I'm going to talk about DWAC. I'm going to also explain what a warrant is and how to use a warrant, okay? And we're going to talk a little bit about psychology trading. My voice is deep because I've been up since 3 a.m. Chicago time getting ready for this video and you guys, okay? I wanted to put this out early so you guys that are still thinking about getting in, you can make some money, and you can make more money with the warrants as you can with the stock, which I will show you. Let's go right to the chart. So as you can see here, the stock yesterday went up 356%. Amazing, all right? And then pre-market, it's already up another 58%. Amazing. Now, I bought the stock last night after closing bell at $58.20. After 3 hours after closing bell. This is phenomenal for one day. This is like short squeeze action, all right? But now let's look at what the warrants did. The warrants, that's what the DWAC, the W stands for warrants. It went up over 2,000%, and then pre-market another 128%. Myself, I bought the warrants 3 hours after the market closed, and I wanted to prove a point with that. So as you could see, there's a lot more money to be made in the warrants than it is the stock. Okay, so now I want to play this short clip from CNBC, and then after that, I'm going to explain what a warrant is. Check this out.
Check out shares of Digital World Acquisition Corp. The SPAC soaring more than 350% after striking a deal to take former President Donald Trump's new media company public. The Trump Media and Technology Group plans to launch a social media app called Truth Social.
SPACs are sort of a somewhat misunderstood kind of entity, and the warrants that traded with this SPAC, to me, seemed ridiculously underpriced. I cannot understand why someone would not buy the warrant, which has an $11.50 strike price, at now it's trading up to 15, versus the stock, which is now 57, which is about $10 higher than before we started this show. And the combined entity isn't $1.8 billion, which is what the SPAC looks like. That's only the SPAC's portion. The combined entity is now like closer to $10 billion. To me, it was just a complete mispricing. I think people don't understand how the warrants work. It's kind of crazy though, 10 billion out of nothing. We'll see what the business actually looks like. Nobody's seen it yet. We don't know. The prospectus isn't out yet, so nobody has any details.
And by the way, there's a Reddit component to all of this because this is one of the most mentioned tickers today on Wall Street Bets, even exceeding GameStop at one point, guys. So there are a lot of layers to this story on top of whether or not this could actually be a player in the social media space.
Here. This could do very odd things over the next couple of weeks, so strap in.
Now, as you could see, I'm going to talk about psychology first and then warrants. The psychology of it is that this was heavily thrown around in the Reddit community. This was like a short squeeze. It was the number one talk. It was the number one stock that was talked about in the entire market, right? So how does Larry break this down? I break it down into this is something that hit yesterday. There's going to be a lot of latecomers that's going to come. I wasn't going to get in it. I'm probably going to be back out today. But I got in because of psychology trading, because I know that half of America is at work. Donald Trump had 50% of the voters to vote for him. So you're talking about a strong demand just for his name. Then you have the Reddit movement that just wants to make money, and they understand psychology trading. They understand there's power in the herd. So after I made my video yesterday, I made another one last night saying I'm going to buy $1,000 worth of the warrants, and I'm going to buy $1,000 worth of the stock, and let's see what happens. This is a beta test, all right? And so I'm thinking by the time these people get home from work tomorrow, which is Friday, today, there's going to still be some FOMO, and why not make a little money? So I changed my mind, and I'm showing you guys how to make money on it, okay? So that's where we are with the psychology trading, okay? Now let's talk about warrants and what are they? Warrants are not the same as options like a lot of people think, though there's a lot of similarity, okay? Let me explain this about warrants. I'm going to make it really, really simple. All right, we don't need charts because sometimes charts get confusing. My thought pattern is talk to me like I'm 3, right? So I'm gonna make it to where you can really understand it. So here I have my cup of coffee. So the acquisition, which is DWAC, which is Digital Works Acquisition Corp. All right. That is a blank check company, right? And then Donald Trump's media company is the company with the product. Just like with Lucid, CCIV was the blank check company and Lucid Motors made the cars, okay? This is how I'm going to explain warrants. So what happens is the acquisition company, this is a SPAC, Special Purpose Acquisition Company. This is what a SPAC is, okay? And so now that's why they always have acquisition in it, okay? So what happens is the blank check company, which is DWAC, is going to merge with Donald Trump's media company. CCIV is going to merge with Lucid Motors. That's called a merger, right? When they come together, the blank check provides the money, and the other company provides the service. In this case, the service is Donald Trump's media platform. In the case of CCIV, it was Lucid Motors, right? So CCIV was the blank check. Lucid Motors was the company, okay? Follow so far? Now, as it pertains to warrants, so now there's an established price for the stock. The floor is generally 10 o'clock. The floor is generally $10, but not limited to. There has been some other SPACs where the floor was higher than $10, but most are $10. So before the stock goes public to where you and I can buy it, there are pipe investors. And what the pipe investors do is they infuse money into the SPAC and they say, we want the option. No, not the option. We want the right to buy the share at $10. Okay. That's the pipe investors. And so they have a lockout period to where day one, they cannot sell their shares, because if they sold their shares at $10 on day one, it would cause the price of the stock to go down. No one would invest in it. So the pipe investors, not you and I, private investors, they get to buy their shares for $10. All right. That's why sometimes when the lockout period of the pipe investors are up, the stock comes back down to $10 because people are thinking all of these pipe investors are going to sell, right? Causing the price to go down, right? But now that lockout period is down the road, right? So what a warrant is, let's say the price of the stock is $30. You can get the warrant sometimes for, let's say the warrant price is $10, right? What the warrant is you pay that $10, right? And that means that you have the option to exercise that warrant for an extra $11.50, right? So remember that. So let's say the stock price is $30 and the warrant price is $10, right? Now, the warrant price fluctuates just like the price of the stock does, all right? But what happens is when you buy a warrant, you have sometimes years, let's just say 4 years, if that is what you have 4 years and 5 years to exercise that warrant. So that means that in 5 years, if the stock goes from $30 to $150, you've already paid the $10 for the option, right? But then you have to pay an extra $11.50 per share. What a lot of people don't understand is they'll buy a boatload of warrants, but they don't understand that to exercise those warrants, you're going to have to pay an additional $11.50 per share, right? And you have to have that liquidity in your brokerage account ready, right? Now, here's where the deal gets tricky. After the merger is done, generally no sooner than 30 days after the merger is done, the company, let's say the merger happens, like Lucid Motors, they merge, right? But 30 days after, they could give a call on the warrants and say, hey, we need that extra money, so you need to exercise your warrants, meaning you need to pay us an additional $11.50 per warrant price. You paid that $10 back to our other example for the option, right? So now a lot of people misunderstood when Lucid made a call on their warrants. They have that right, okay? But now you have to understand this. It's a gamble. If you think it's a solid company that's going to have high growth, then you paying that $10 plus an $11.50, right? So that's 10, that's $21.50 now. If you think the stock is going to be worth $125 a share 5 years down the road, then you got to steal because you only paid $11.50. Remember, the $10 plus the $11.50 to exercise the warrants. But in a lot of cases, just like Lucid Motors, the price never gets up, right? It just stays down, which a lot of SPACs do. Now you're stuck with a warrant price that could be higher than the actual price of the stock. So now you're stuck with the warrant price plus I have to pay an extra $11.50 per share to exercise the warrants. All right? Please rewind this and you will understand it. Just play it over and over. Now, here's where Stock Up with Larry Jones, here's how I've made a killing with warrants. I never exercise the warrants. I sell them. You could sell the warrants before the merger. I have done at least 10 to 12 SPACs. And in every situation that I held on to the warrants, it didn't work out. In the cases where I just sold the warrants at face value, meaning you could go to that ticker symbol like DWAC, DWAC, W, and I could sell it just like stock. So you can go to your broker and you can hit the sell sign and sell it just like the stock. So the people that were up over 2,000% yesterday and today could sell their warrants. Just go to your broker and sell it just like you sell regular stock. And you're out, no risk. And so that's how I play it. But let me give you guys another Stock Up with Larry Jones tip. What I have learned, and this is not a rule, this is just what I've learned by observing the way the warrants trail the stocks. Generally, the stock price, the warrant follows the stock by 60% towards the end when the merger is about to happen, right? So towards the when it gets closer to the merger date, first there's an acquisition and there's an announcement, but the merger has not happened. Towards the merger date, the warrants start catching up to the stock and it trails at about 60%. How do you know when to really get the warrants? When the warrants are trailing the stock price by 70%, 80%, 90%, 100%. Now you have all of this room to run. So I'm telling you that out of 12 SPACs, if you just simply sell the warrants at face value before the merger happens, you make out, because SPACs this year in 2021 do not do well just like they did in 2020. In 2020, we made a lot of money on SPACs pre and post merger. This year, most SPACs fail after the merger. They go down, all right? So that explains what a warrant is. And you could buy more warrants with the same amount of cash. So I'll tell you what Larry does. I will say I'll buy $1,000 worth of the stock, and then I'll put $1,000 worth in the warrants. For those of you that was following me last year with these SPACs, you saw there were days where I was up 100% on the stock, but then I was up 200% on the warrants. Dollar for dollar, I was making way more money on the warrants, all right? So I'm just going to briefly go over it again. I am going to repost this video separate on warrants. You have the company that provides the product, the company that has the cash, which is usually ended by acquisition because it's an acquisition company. This is Lucid Motors, or this is Donald Trump's media company, and this is the acquisition company. There is a announcement made about a merger, right? That's when we start buying in. The pipe investors, they buy theirs at $10, right? And then months down the road, the merger happens. The cash gets infused into the product company, and that's how they make money. But as it pertains to the warrants, you could buy the warrants at a fraction of the price of the shares. But to exercise the warrants, you need an additional $11.50. All right, good people. Hopefully that helped you. Hopefully, if you're thinking about getting in, you will look at maybe just putting half in the warrants and then half in the stock. You'll see that you're doing better with the warrants. Hey, I have links below. Webull, you can buy the stock there, but not the warrants. And deposit $100. They're going to give you 2 free stock worth up to $2,300. If you're into crypto, I have Coinbase below. All right, good people, do me a favor. If I've helped you in any way to make one dime, do me a favor and share this page with at least 5 people so we can all make money together. All right, good people, I'm going to bed now. Live, love, laugh, and learn.